Here we go, my last piece. In the Beauty and the Beast section of the 40,320 piece Disney Memorable Moments puzzle is all finished. So today we'll talk about my experience with this section and a few things I learned that should help from here on out. The areas that were easy, some that were hard, and even a surprise or two that I had. And stick around to the end because then we'll decide on which section we're going to do next. So let's go back for a few minutes and talk about the 1,000 piece version. So if you're new to the channel, not only am I doing the 40,000 piece puzzle, I'm also doing the 1,000 piece versions of each of the sections. I already had them, and I figured why not do those along with the big puzzle. And I'm glad I did, because this actually helped out quite a bit with the big puzzle. So first, it helped with the sorting. For instance, we'll take yellow, the Belle's dress and Beast's jacket and a shirt. In this puzzle, I just took all the yellow and had that in one pile. But then I had to go through and figure out which went to, say, Belle's dress and which went to Beast. But as I did the puzzle, I was able to really tell the difference because Beast is more of a really light yellow, almost a pastel. Belle's was more of a golden yellow. So then when I was sorting the big puzzle, I was able to tell which pieces went with Belle and which pieces went with Beast. And even the fire and Lumiere and the candlesticks. Then by the time I got done, I even had all of Beast, for the most part, in one pile. As far as putting the puzzle together, this actually helped out quite a bit, and we'll get to that in a few minutes too. But first I started off with the window, which in the 1,000 piece, it was a little rough. Yeah, it was even tougher on this bigger puzzle. There was just more of it. It wasn't any harder, wasn't any easier, but it just took longer. And then since I had Beast all separated out, went ahead and put him together. He was probably the funnest and easiest part of the whole puzzle. He actually went fairly quickly. I had pretty much all of his pieces except for maybe one or two pieces of this hand and a couple of pieces of his feet I ended up having mixed up with the gargoyles. And I thought I'd work my way over, put all these stairs together. There were a lot of pieces with the dark red and the pink on the same piece, and it started up here at the top lighter and got darker as you went down. Belle, I was a little overwhelmed with all the yellow pieces that I had for her, and her dress is so big. So I thought, since after doing the stairs, I had a lot of the outline already done. So I went ahead and just did the outline of her dress. That way I could just fill it in, and I'd have a lot of area to go off of instead of just maybe starting at a corner and trying to fill it all in. And I wouldn't say her dress was hard. It was just a little time consuming, so I did sort of a micro sort because you had a lot of areas like here and down here and this area over here and this side of her dress that were almost a brown instead of a yellow. So I was able to just put those pieces together and then fill those areas in. And then I made a bit of a mistake. I wanted to use this area down here next. Since it's nice and close to me, I could just sit here and puzzle away. So I thought, if I do the bottom row, the edge first, then I could come down from there and come up from the bottom. But that didn't work out too well. So something about these big puzzles, the piece fit isn't that great. Well, I understand that's just how it is with every brand. As good as a fit as it usually is, they're going to be a little looser. I got quite a few false fits, which wasn't a huge deal. I dealt with it. With the edge, it was really bad. I had the edge pretty much put together as best I could, but by the time I got done, but none of it was right, and eventually I ended up taking pretty much the whole thing apart anyways. But that's fine. We learned from here on out. I got a better way of doing it now, so So the rest of the sections, they should go a lot smoother. So after I thought I had the edge put together, I went ahead and did the film strip. That I was a little worried about, because on the 1000 piece, it wasn't that easy, because all I had to go off of was the box. And it's so small, you can't hardly see really what's going on. But that's where the 1000 piece version came in. Since it was a lot bigger than just the box was when I did that one, I used the puzzle itself as the guide. It was a lot bigger, so I was able to see what was going on in each of the frames. And it turned out to actually, instead of dreading doing it, this actually turned out to be one of the funnest parts of the puzzle, which is good because I have to do it 9 more times, right? Once that was done, I was able to piece in right down here and over here and over on the end here. And that's why I realized pretty much my whole edge that I put together was all wrong. From now on with the rest of the sections, I'm just not going to bother with the edge until I start filling in the bottom. There's just not enough there to really lock the pieces in and be sure that it goes there. So once I had this area down here done, then I started on Cogsworth, the Lumiere, Miss Potts, and the Feather Duster, and they weren't too hard. And in between here and there, I'd put in a few more pieces of the stairs and work on that a little bit, and started working my way up the sides. At first, I was a little worried about all this paint floors back in these areas, but it really wasn't too bad. This side's actually quite a bit darker than this side, so at least I was able to figure out if the pieces went on this side or this side for that. So at that point, I pretty much had the whole bottom half of the puzzle done. So what I did was I ended up spinning my whole table around so I could work on it from the other side. So first, I started with the curtains up here at the top, and they weren't too bad. Took a little time just because there's 2 of them, and there's quite a few pieces in both those areas. And then I went down to the gargoyles, which I was not looking forward to, because in the 1000 piece, these guys were the hardest parts of this whole puzzle. So since I had it flipped around, what I did, I took the idea from when I did Belle's dress about doing the outline. So I tried to do the outlines of their wings and their heads on both of them at the same time. And I kind of bounced back and forth between the 2 of them. And it took me a couple days just to get these 2 guys done. Because pick up a piece and, oh, does it go somewhere on this guy? Or does it go somewhere on this side? And again, the 1000 piece puzzle helped quite a bit because I was able to see a lot more detail. Because just looking at the picture, some details you just don't really notice. Like if you look at the gargoyles on the big one, like these big red lines down here, but on this, you don't even really notice them that they're there. So having the 1000 piece really helped out a lot with those little details like that. So once I got the top half of the gargoyles done, I flipped my table back around again and did the bottom halves of the gargoyles and the stands that they're on. Once I had those guys done, I was getting to where there wasn't much to choose from anymore. So I thought, well, I'll do the molding on the walls and these big candlesticks there. And that's where the 1000 piece puzzle came in handy again. Because just looking at the little picture, all these lines were hard to tell which went where. Because I put them all together. Does this one go here? Does it go over here? And that one over here? Because looking at that little picture, it was hard to tell. So looking at the 1000 piece puzzle, I was able to see more detail which one went where. Like this one's pretty much solid brown. This one here is a little lighter and it had that really dark line on the left edge. This candlestick had the gold down the middle. And this one was a little bit darker. After those were done, I thought about doing the walls next. The pile I had for the railing up there and down here and a little bit over here really wasn't that big. So I thought I could probably knock that out pretty quick. Well, that actually took longer than I thought. I knew it wasn't going to be totally easy, but that's why I ran into quite a few false bits. And since it was so complex with all these swirls and, you had the golds and the blue up in there, and you're just concentrating on that one area. If you get a false fit, it was hard to tell if that piece went there or not, because it looked like it did. But there's a few times I had the pieces in the wrong place, but they actually seemed to fit. So that got a little frustrating, but we got it done eventually. And then I went ahead and filled in the walls. So I thought that was going to be a lot tougher than it was. This side is more of a purplish color. and this side is a bit lighter, more of a pink. And I was worried when I started that maybe in between these lines going up, there'd be, 2 or 3 and 4 rows in between each one, because, I didn't know the scale exactly how big this was going to turn out to be. But it wasn't too bad. I mean, most of them I went through and just found the pieces with a little bit of the molding on it, just maybe the tip of the little nubs on there, and fit all of them in, and then I could go off of those and fill in the rest in between. It really wasn't that bad. And then came the fun part. And yes, I'm being sarcastic. That's the edges all the way around the puzzle. That was quite the grind. I was trying to come up with a good system to do it, so on the later sections I could get through it a lot quicker this time, but I still haven't come up with a good solution. It's just put in a piece and see if it fits. I mean, yeah, there's some shading, but this bluish gray along here, but it's also up there and it's also there, like this yellowish green that's up above that light, up along here and over there. So the edges, it's pretty much just try to put pieces in as best as you can and keep going. Hopefully eventually I can come up with a good system for doing the edges, but I think that's just how it's going to end up being for all 10 sections. As far as doing the puzzle, I loved it. I had a lot of fun doing this. There were times at the beginning where I was a little overwhelmed and was thinking, man, what did I get myself into? Especially early on with Bella here. All that yellow, big old pile of yellow pieces. And after I got her done, I thought, okay, I can do this. Take an area like as big as her dresses and just break that into smaller areas. And eventually you get it done. Same with the gargoyles I was worried about. I'm just worried about the top half of them first. Got that done. And then went ahead and did the bottom half of them. So you do that with these big puzzles and eventually you're done. So now the question is, what's next? So let's take a look. I think an easier one to do would probably be Lion King, Bambi, Cinderella. But I'm thinking something a little harder. So Christmas break is coming up and I have about a week and a half off of work. So how about we do one of the harder ones? Maybe Dumbo, Little Mermaid. Well, I understand Peter Pan's supposed to be the hardest one out of all of these. So I'm thinking we do Peter Pan next. Like they say, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. So let's get this harder one done. It'll be done and over with. I have plenty of time during Christmas and New Year's break to get a lot of it done and just grind away at all that blue, right? So don't forget to subscribe so you can come back and see how that works out.